Guys, we're getting ready here. We're going to see the bans on the screen in just a second. Swim, what do you think about this matchup here? We've had a chance to look at these deck lists.
This is honestly a pretty tricky one. I would say that looking at the deck lists alone, Talbot is probably favored. He has the Nilfgaard deck, and it's the Henselt deck against Kolomon's Foltest deck as well. But Kolomon could absolutely be able to devastate this matchup. I mean, he showed up yesterday and absolutely demolished his opponent. So really, this could be anyone's game.
Really intrigued to see the bans that are going to happen here. Will we see a standard approach at banning Emir, as you know, it was the most popular ban yesterday, or will either of these players switch it up? That could really lead to, you know, the matchup playing out very differently.
Yeah, well, one of the things to consider is that today is actually using very slightly different rules than yesterday in a bit of a weird way. Specifically, the fact that both players know all of the decks by the opponent actually can change how you play individual matches in terms of what you're playing against, but also it can change how you ban, absolutely. Because, of course, when you're facing unknown decks, you have to cast a broad net, ban whatever, but when you see your opponent's deck, it absolutely could change how you ban.
And it changes the tactics a little bit too. Sometimes in the quarterfinals, you might try to trip up your opponent with some surprise cards, some different tactics. All of that becomes revealed in the semifinals here.
Yeah, exactly.
And it saves the players a little bit of time. Of course, everything is shown on stream in the quarterfinals match. Giving this information to the opponents really allows to develop some surgical strategies.
And of course, this happens because otherwise the players could just look up the matchups on the internet themselves. So this makes it very fair as we see the lineups and we see the bans. And indeed, Kolomon has Unseen Elder ban, not Emir. No, I'm sorry. Is that
the right way around?
No,
I believe that's inverted.
It is inverted. It is inverted. Yes, it is Talbot with his Unseen Elder ban, while Kolomon has his Emir ban. What do you guys think? What do you think about this one?
I actually love that ban, I have to say, coming out from Kolomon, banning Talbot's Unseen Elder. If you look very closely at the deck list, Kolomon's Unseen Elder doesn't have the Nekker Warriors, whereas Talbot's does. And in the mirror, the one with the Nekker Warriors wins. I mean, the Nekker Warriors.
Agreed.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a very good point. He's basically saying he does not want to face that mirror, so he's going to shift his ban to Unseen Elder, which actually makes even more sense because he himself is bringing a Foltest, which has an unfavorable matchup against Elder as well.
Absolutely, and I also think because Talbot's on the red side of the coin in this situation, Unseen Elder is a very strong red coin deck, as is Henselt. Kolomon's going to take one of those weapons away from him.
I am so excited for this matchup. Both of these players performed so well yesterday. Kolomon, a player that I personally didn't know very little about, and he just blew me away with his performance over Azekov, and Talbot had such a strong, very few mistakes made in his matchup against Shaggy. Overall, these two players definitely deserve to be here, and I'm just super intrigued to see which one of these two will make it to the finals.
Yeah, I gotta say, I think most people might be favoring Talbot right now as he has more experience, but that ban switch from Kolomon really shows it's the sign of a truly good player.
Yes. Adapting to knowledge, because this is a very different scenario, as you said earlier. Like, knowing what your opponent is running really makes a whole lot of a difference. It also affects not only the decks you ban, but how you play, because you know they either have Igni or not, they have Lacery, they don't have Lacery, like very specific cards that you play around with your positioning. They don't have to guess anymore. They can just completely jump into it and play exactly according to what their opponent is running. And here we go, ladies and gentlemen, the first match of today of the semifinals. It is Henselt versus King Bran.
So Talbot leading off with Henselt here is not too much of a surprise. Henselt is a very, very strong leader to pick when you are going second in the game. They just has so much abuse potential, using these spies offensively to proc your Dunbanner Light Cavalry, as it would benefit from having a large point gap, as well as just a lot of the high pressure plays you can make with Henselt as well. Just some of the best tempo in the game coming from Henselt here. So Talbot leading off with a very strong pick, and Kolomon opting to go with King Bran. Miguel, what do you think about King Bran as the lead off here for Kolomon?
Oh, I think it's a very, very I'm not surprised by this. It was either King Bran or Unseen Elder, as these are the kind of leaders that really rely on a carry-over style play, which is not as punished basically by going first or second. It's the deck that cares the least about that. On the other hand, seeing Talbot lead with Henselt is a no-brainer. We've mentioned this numerous times in the tournament, how Henselt is the premier leader to abuse when going second. His ability is extremely powerful and makes it so that the opponent has a very hard time catching up with the tempo, and it puts him in a very bad spot. It can force him to go down -2 cards or have to give up the round, which is why this leader is so strong in this particular scenario.
King Bran going first also is pretty strong, just by the way of the ability for King Bran dropping Morkvarg and also applying Wolfsbane in the graveyard. Long term, you do get a lot of value out of King Bran there, and it also applies a different kind of pressure. You care a little bit less, just a little bit less about going first. So, you do have to go first. Of course, Koloman does have to go first in Game 3 and Game 1, Game 3, and if necessary, Game 5. So leading off here, getting a win with King Bran would be huge, obviously, because when you get a win, when you're going first, you have an advantageous position going second, and it can go from there. And we saw that in some of the 3-0 victories from Koloman as one of those matches yesterday, as well as Life Coach's victory, as well as Talebot just starts off with the Siege Tower just to keep pace at this point.
Yeah, this Siege Tower is actually extremely threatening, especially as we look at Talebot's hand. He has no other reinforced Siege Towers there, so that means that he is threatening a turn 2 Hensel potentially to try to punish the opponent for the low tempo start. It's important for you that you noted, you pointed out the fact that he led off with King Bran with Wolfsbane. Wolfsbane, in case you guys don't know, is a very unique gold card. As you see in the graveyard, in 2 turns, it will proc, and it will provide a total of a 12-point swing if it manages to hit an opposing unit that is 6 strength or higher. And this is a very big deal because one of the weaknesses of King Bran in round 1 is his lack of tempo, and Wolfsbane enables him to make up for that. Instead of that being like a 7 strength play, which we saw initially, it is technically going to become a total of 19-point play. And a 19-point play coming from King Bran, which also invests into future rounds throughout your carryover, is a massive deal.
I like how Talebot was also looking at the graveyard as we were explaining that. Very kind of him to assist us with some visual aids. And I think that, in this situation here, he also got a little bit of information from Koloman as the Warmonger did discard the Heimei Battle Maiden. That tells Talebot, hey, I have Restore in my hand, and I'm going to probably use it here to get some more stuff out of the deck. So one of those cards could end up being the Warmonger, but of course anything is available from the Battle Maiden as far as the Whale Harpooner is concerned, and of course Talebot knows Koloman's deck here as Talebot goes ahead and just drops the Henselt. Huge play here, quite a point disparity at this point already.
We're talking about a total of 25 points there in Talebot's favor. He did place the second reinforced tower out of crewman range, and no, that was not a misclick. Talebot's he knows exactly what he's doing. He's trying to play around Scorch. Both players, this is a very intriguing matchup. Both players are running Scorch, though it does seem like Talebot is more vulnerable to it here because of the overall value, unless he manages to find Altor across the Talor, which buffs it up to 13, he would be able to block it. But because he has Talor in hand and no Altor's double cross, his own Talor will not be able to block an opposing Scorch. So that his Scorch is basically locked right now by that reinforced East Tower, and he's not placing the second one and having it buffed up to 12 so that he doesn't get like a ridiculous 24-point Scorch.
So we saw the Battle Maiden come out, Restore being used on the Battle Maiden, bringing it up to 8 strength, and the Battle Maiden being able to source another Warmonger from the deck. Warmonger discarding Armorsmith this time. So even though there are Raiders in the deck, 3 Raiders to be exact, Koloman is instead kind of giving himself a bit more flexibility and tools to handle the upcoming plays here from Talebot. What do you think about Armorsmith being on call now? How does that change Talebot's plan of action here?
Well, Talebot already knows that Koloman does have Armorsmith, and obviously it is in his graveyard, right? So what Talebot has to focus on, and if he does deploy the reinforced ballistas, he has to try to eliminate his targets. That's the most key thing, because if you eliminate the targets, you don't give the Armorsmith a chance. If you leave something wounded and very weak, you're actually providing him with the value. So it's going to be very key. Talebot really needs to sequence his machines with the crewmen properly to avoid that. And we see Koloman bringing it up to 34 as he's still 1 point behind Talebot, and it is his turn. Now, one of the things here is because of the nature of machine decks, they tend to row stack a lot. Why? Because they use a lot of crewman cards. Crewman cards basically boost up the deploy effects of machines when they are placed right next to them. This, like I said, forces players to play a lot of their units in the same row, and that leaves you very vulnerable to last rate. It's going to get a lot of value.
Now, while it does leave you vulnerable to last rate, it does play around the Whale Harpooners, which get value when moving usually a single unit onto a row that already has a lot of units, but if you stack up your row, it doesn't have a lot of value. However, you do have to play into last rate, which is why we see a lot of King Bran decks run 1 or even potentially 2 last rate, sometimes Geralt Igni as well. Though Koloman is not running Geralt Igni, we have seen Geralt Igni in Bran decks already in this tournament as well. So, being able to influence the rows of the opponent is a very strong tactic for Bran, as Nekamar comes out from Dorgray, establishing just a little bit of extra carryover since Morkvarg was locked by Margarita here. So the only carryover that Koloman has right now is Seris potentially but Seris is now a little bit weaker with Morkvarg locked. Do you think that's really going to be a huge impact on Coloman's plan here?
Locking Morkvarg, obviously the prime target you want to reach with Margarita is, here's the Scorch.
I like the Scorch.
Now, the reason why that Ikimara is so buffed up is because it consumed the Clan Heme Battle Maiden, and that was no coincidence. Coloman wants to abuse the overall value of Restore by re-summoning that Battle Maiden from the graveyard with the Priestess of Freya, and he wanted to conserve all that value. But by overcoming the 10 stats of the Reinforced Siege Tower, he did become vulnerable to Scorch and got punished right there. Margarita can be resurrected with Shani to lock Seris as well, so it's not over, but that is the only answer Tailbot has to deny Seris. Otherwise, he has to really take control of the match and get all the resurrections out of
Freyr
Coloman.
is patient.
Yeah, and we're talking
but
about
she brooks no
some of the decisions that Coloman has made with the discards, such as the Heme Battle Maiden, which is exactly how you said there, getting that extra value, playing it, eating it, and then playing it again with the Priestess of Freya. Now the Warmongers are grabbing those Raiders for the tempo. But we're looking at one Heme Battle Maiden, we're looking at one Armor Smith, and those were the first 2 picks for the discard on the Warmonger. This is some tournament tech. You put your 1-ofs in and you put them in the graveyard so you can easily get them whenever you want. That kind of reliability and consistency is what you need out of your decks, because you don't want to get caught needing that Armor Smith and not having it.
Like, one of the reasons why I'm so fascinated by Coloman as a player, I did not know anything about this guy. I've always said, you know, Tailbot is a very meticulous, analytical individual who makes very little mistakes in his gameplay, but Coloman is that kind of guy that gives me the impression that he just thinks so far up ahead, as if he were some sort of German psychic, and it's incredible. Like, as you said, his discards with the Warmonger, he knew exactly what sequence he was going to go for, and it just shows, man. It just shows. I guess that's what he was so dominant tomorrow, is the #1 player in the pro ladder. Like, this man is legit and is the true definition of a dark horse.
So here, Taller comes out here from Tailbot, giving Tailbot a little extra card advantage here, on top of the fact that it creates a point disparity that will be enough to trigger the Dunbanner Light Cavalry. Coloman is not running a spy, not running really any way to counter this. So outside of just, I mean, there's really nothing that's going to stop this. Tailbot is going to get a lot of value out of the Dunbanner Light Cavalry, which is one of the ways that Henselt is so good at going second. Not only do you have the advantage of going second and having that last play to begin the round, but also you get that extra bit of card advantage from your card advantage spy, in this case Taller, and it doesn't cost you all that much because the Dunbanner Light Cavalry pick you up. So it's easier to get back into the game and much easier to take the round on a pass.
Now, I want to emphasize why that early Margarita was so good. Because of this scenario, even if Coloman were to pass here, obviously the Dunbanner Light Cavalry would not be enough for him to catch up, but he has denied the resurrection with Morkvarg, which means that he could be able to open pass on his opponent and thus lead to an equal card state round 3. So that was, it put Coloman in a very bad spot, and now Coloman is threatened to go down -2, which does not feel good. It's definitely a very bad thing, and Tailbot is in a very solid position right now, especially because of a very reactive deck like this. And what I mean by reactive is a deck that can handle with opposing proactive threats with the likes of Scorch, and Wildermeth really benefits from having last say in a match.
Summoning Circle right now in Tailbot's hand is actually able to produce a second Taller, a little bit less interesting because there is not going to be a second set of Dunbanner Light Cavalry. Coloman just going ahead and saying, okay, well, I'm going to go down cards and I'm going to build a lead that you're going to have a really, really hard time surpassing here. I don't know if Tailbot is considering playing a second spy here, but you know, the point disparity is a bit too much. He's going to take those 2 cards up, and this could be really crucial for the future of this game. 2 cards is quite a lot.
2 cards is a hell of a lot, especially when your opponent lacks any sort of carryover to support him. He has to really work to get that Seris out of the graveyard here. And even so, he misses out on the Morkvarg Resurrection. He needs 1 extra proc because of the Morkvarg being locked. And Seris is 7 points, which is definitely relevant, but Tailbot could definitely catch up to a point in which that's not as impactful, especially because of how snowbally these machine effects can lead to.
Tailbot draws Handmarvin's Blue Dream, which will now allow him to muzzle something back. The Whale Harpooners being perfect targets for muzzle. There's not really too much you want to take away from Coloman at this point. Morkvarg is locked and in the graveyard, not coming back in this situation outside of Sigurdrifa being able to procure that, which is not available to Koloman at this point. So Henmarvin's Blue Dream, we'll see how that's used. Likely is going to be used for the muzzle. But if Coral is played this round, Koloman will have to, he does have command of the round, so he doesn't have an incentive to necessarily play Coral here, and he has the ability to put ahead. You know, it's a pretty big lead here for 20, so if Tailbot's not able to overcome this right now, Koloman might just take the opportunity to get a little bit more of this card advantage back, passing, forcing Tailbot to play one more card, and then go first in the third round. But I don't know if that's going to be enough, because right now we can see Tailbot with 9 cards in hand playing here, Koloman only with 6. It's just such a huge disparity in cards.
It definitely is. Going into round 3, 1 card down against a deck with Villain Tremeth in his roster is not something you want to see. That was an excellent lead by Koloman, though, getting the double resurrection proc. In case anybody wonders why Seris proc twice there, is because the Priest of Freya resurrected the Warmonger, and when the Warmonger discarded the Raider, it counts as a resurrection as well, and it does, it's procs it twice. And it also, it's such an excellent play because it also thins his deck too. As we're going to see Tailbot just lead off with a Reinforced Ballista, probably hinting at the fact that he's going to follow that up with a reinforced, a Siege Master. If you win a Siege Master, the guy, you know, yelling right there in front of the catapults.
Yeah, the Siege Master is great. Redeploys the machines. Basically, it heals them up and it allows them to redeploy their effects. And the deploy effects on the machine is really where the meat of those cards' value come from. So I love Siege Masters and Henselt, generally Henselt machines. One of my favorite builds for Northern Realms personally, as much as I love Radovid as a general leader and a lot of the work that Radovid can get done, a lot of the strategy denial, Henselt is just a powerhouse leader right now, especially in Tailbot's position, being in the red chair this afternoon here.
The clock is ticking. The clock is ticking for Koloman here. He's definitely debating about whether to take this card, because the longer this round goes, the more vulnerable he becomes to Tailbot being able to catch up. And if Tailbot catches up, it is 100% over.
Koloman being very careful about, he had Coral on his mind there, but knowing that he would give Coral to Tailbot potentially with Henmarvin's Blue Dream, I mean, that's got to be a consideration here. Koloman's going to push, but with each turn Koloman pushes ahead here, it's just making it a tougher and tougher round 3 for him to take, just being behind on cards. So, I mean, Koloman is got to hope to out-tempo, like just put a whole bunch of points on the board and pass in a favorable position here. I don't think he's capable of 2-0ing at this point, especially with that Raider in hand. That's not great.
He's gonna go for the DJ though.
Oh, a little
there we go, early DJ.
Never too early for DJ.
Exactly. Very well said. Very well said, my friend.
Try.
It is never too early for the DJ. We're gonna see the Reinforced Siege Master, only providing with a 9-point swing there and a Ballista. There is a crewman, so that's not that bad at all. It's gonna hit Seris as well. This is a very nice swing for Tailbot. Unfortunately, it is not enough. That's why he went for the Dijkstra right there. He tried to get a high roll into a situation which he was able to overcome the strength gap. He failed out just by a little bit, and I would not be surprised to see a pass from Koloman here. Regardless of what Koloman does at this point, he is in very big trouble. That Towler was extremely punishing, especially when going second.
Now, I did say it's never too early for DJ, but it's actually, that was fairly risky. I mean, the Dijkstra was capable of perhaps pulling out Villain Trettenmirth, which is one of the cards that Tailbot is running, one of the gold cards that would potentially help him win most matchups. Villain Trettenmirth being a very strong card, and especially when things line up like Whale Harpooners. And I think that, you know, that was fine, but he just really wanted to close that gap, because the closer that gap is, the better the round 3 looks having those extra cards.
In this particular matchup, though, Villain Tremeth can become a little bit clunky, because if we look up those lists, they're more or less even when it comes to the amount of strength. And Tailbot has yet to play Ronvid, you know, the guy who's just really beat up, trying to battle for maidens and such to impress them. He's pretty buff. He's 10 strength, and looking at the Seris deck that Koloman has, he has no unit that has a base strength of higher than 9. So Villain Tremeth is not that important in this particular game, even though I mentioned how important it is for reactive decks. In this particular matchup, any sort of Scorch effect is more likely to punish Tailbot than Koloman.
Ronvid deserves a little bit better description there. Poor guy.
It was so annoying in The Witcher, though.
Well, I mean, it's a sad story for Ronvid. Definitely play The Witcher 3 and explore that story. Not so much battling for the love of maidens, but just a little crazy. It's really unfortunate here as Tailbot goes, and he's just trying to keep this gap nice and close, and he's able to actually get ahead in points here. Koloman potentially giving Tailbot Coral in round 3 could be very dangerous. Koloman is just playing this out here. That Raider in hand is not going to do that great for him here, and the Lacerate is looking better and better, at least, although a little bit worse now. But this allows him to just push a little bit harder here. You know, Whale Harpooner's very strong cards generally, even on one unit, still pretty good. You'll take the 9 points, but it allows just, you know, he's kind of showing that he might have a second Whale Harpooner, but it also disrupts the crewman strategy here that Tailbot is just trying to get a handle on, as he does have 3 machines in his hand.
The thing here is that Freya does represent some decent value onto the Armor Smith, but the Ballista is really dispersing the damage, right? So it's not focusing the damage on one sole target, and that's where the Armor Smith really capitalizes on a very damaged unit. In this case, because the damage is being so dispersed, it's not going to be that crazy of value. And even though he is disrupting the crewman, expecting to perhaps another Siege Master who's played right next to the Ballista, and he tried to disrupt that, he's also weakening his Lacerate. Coleman is in big trouble here. He has a Raider in hand. There's no way, I believe, he's going to be able to get Ceres out, especially with Morgwark locked in round 3. And I think he's just pushing for the 2-0 at this point, and it's very unlikely to happen. If you want to avoid the word impossible. And yeah, it's definitely going to be tough. I think Coleman is pretty much set here. Tailbot with that Talor play, abusing, going second with Hensel, which is too strong. He did everything he needed to do, sequenced perfectly. And even though Coleman has a very nice tempo start, he perhaps gave out a little bit of too much power and is now in a very dire situation.
I feel like it would have been okay to move the Siege Master there because it would have killed the crewman, leaving Tailbot with no crewman. Right now, he still has a crewman to utilize. I personally think that moving the crewman there and taking it out might have been a consideration for Coleman there, as worst case scenario, if Coleman is pushing, knowing that the only chance he has here is a 2-0, worst case scenario for Handmarvin's Blue Dream, it's a 16-point muzzle. So, Tailbot, just with that alone, with the point disparity is not going to be that extreme, and the 2 cards are definitely going to cover Tailbot. So, building up a point lead is just not going to happen for Coleman here. It's not an enviable position here for Game 1 of the semifinals of Gwent Challenger 2.
Nope, it is not. I believe he moved the Reinforced Ballista instead of the Siege Master because he doesn't want that Ballista to get extra value. He doesn't want a crewman next to the Ballista so that another Siege Master will trigger it again, because Ballista right now is getting the most value in his current force state. But he does drop the Reinforced Ballista here, and Coleman could potentially take this pass to take 1 extra card out of Tailbot. This is perhaps his only chance to do so, but he's just going all in.
He's a little committed,
yeah. He's hoping that Tailbot has a very limited hand, but only an 18-point lead when you have such powerhouse cards like Shani and Blue Dream. It's looking rough, especially when he can easily take down Dijkstra and reutilize it if he wants to.
The numbers really line up well for the Ballista as well. There's a nice set of 8s there. The Ballista will be able to get 2 shots on that, making it a nice 12-point bronze. On top of that, 16 points looking at Handmarvin's Blue Dream. Another reinforced Ballista here on the summoning circle, killing Dijkstra, which actually activates it for Blue Dream as well, if Tailbot wants to push in that manner. It's 16 points is usually pretty good for Blue Dream. Here comes the pass here. Now Tailbot's he looks like he's quickly making a decision here. Oh, he's thinking about it.
I would definitely drop the Ballista, like there's no doubt about it. One of the cool things about machines and Blue Dream is that you have a lot of out-of-hand damage. You have a lot of ways to destroy your opponent's cards, and you can specifically target the gold cards and take them for yourself in the same round they're played potentially, which not many decks can do. As we see the legend himself, Ronvid right there, fighting until the very end, perhaps overcommitting to his cause, as he's surrounded by gold power, and Coleman is in massive trouble.
Yeah, not a bad draw. You'll take the 10-point crewman because it does help you, if you are running machines in general. And honestly, being able to lead off here with Ronvid is a pretty safe play. It doesn't really commit too much, and it allows Shani to perhaps bring back the machine for a little bit extra pressure. Also, Scorch doesn't stop the crewman as well.
Can I ask you, what the hell does he say there? Call it Mountain Breaths of Smirch. I don't understand that. Please explain to me.
He says, blood alone. Blood alone.
I shall fight 100 duels.
Yeah, I understand that. That's actually English.
Blood alone. No, actually, I don't know the exact line, but it's basically the only way he can unbesmirch his maid's honor is by drawing blood. So he must battle for the honor of Maid Bilberry. No spoilers on who Big Bilberry is. Tailbot just putting the points on the board here. Grimace is not going to be enough, and especially considering that, Coleman just not going to even bother here. Tailbot going to go up 1-0 in the first match here of the semifinals. Pretty good start here. Tailbot put Coleman in a pretty tough position.
very dominant performance by Tailbot. Honestly, not a surprise. Hensel has been extremely powerful in this tournament, especially knowing that you're going second. You can really abuse that powerful swing that a leader's ability provides, and it's very hard to stop if sequenced the right way.
So it's tough, right? When you get to go second, you get to play Hensel there. It's just a lot of pressure, and I think it's possible that Coleman knew very early on that there is the only chance that he would have there is to go down cards or give the round to Tailbot, and he just did not want to give the round to Tailbot in that situation.
Now the question is, what will they switch into now? As Tailbot is going to go first this time around, and it's going to be very interesting to see what he opts to go with. I think we can definitely expect his own King Brand to come this time around, as it is a, like I said, 8-deck. And we may see the difference here is that Coleman is actually not running Foltest. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Praise be the Emperor.
Thanks for having us. I think it's fine. I think King Brand is a fine thing to lead off with, but you can also make a case as Emir just, well, that wasn't Emir. Emir's over there playing chess. My mistake.
There you confuse him with the Emperor.
I'm looking this way.
Filthy Northerner?
You can start off.
English? Sorry.
You can start off with Nilfgaard as well in this situation. I think if you're Tailbot, because going first with Nilfgaard or King Brand, I mean there are good options here for Tailbot. He's in an advantageous position. It is going to be Emir going on here, as Unseen Elder was banned for Tailbot. He will lead off with Emir Nilfgaard Spies, and he's going to be going head to head with Foltest Coleman's Northern Realms.
This is a very intriguing matchup. The only answer to Guardian for Coleman is Margarita or Shani into Margarita. Muzzle targeting, but obviously like Shani to Margarita round 1 is not likely, right? Muzzle targeting Ronvid could prove to be quite devastating for Coleman, as Coleman has no way to stop that from happening if he opts to go with that line of play. And we do not see Muzzle in the opening hand of Tailbot, but we do see the Guardian. Now, it's also important to note that Reinforced Ballista, as we see a couple of cards, a couple of them in the opening hand of Coleman there, are very key to be able to deny the Imperial Enforcers early on, as they have a very easy time taking them out, as they deal 2 damage, for each crewman, so on top of the deploy effect. So it's going to be very interesting to see how this matchup plays out, but that Guardian right there in Tailbot's hand is an excellent way to start this match.
Coleman has a pretty decent hand, 2 Blue Stripes Scouts available, as well as the Marching Orders, which pulls out his single Reaver Scout, so it is potential to get all of the Blue Stripes Scouts out, which means all of the Blue Stripes Commandos out, and that Temerian package will be rolling for Coleman if Tailbot has no answer for it in this situation. Tailbot looking to get important Enforcers from the Emissaries, a very good staple play here, but he's going to lead off with the Guardian. Pretty straight up, great proactive play, 11 points on the board, and it definitely has the ability to, really hurt Coleman's draws, on top of the fact that, Tailbot actually hovered over the coin here.
Yeah.
What do you think about an early pass in this situation to actually force Coleman to potentially draw badly into Blue Stripes Commandos, multiple Temerian infantry? What do you think about maybe an early pass here from Tailbot being on going first in this situation?
Well, we did witness that yesterday in the very last quarterfinal match between Life Coach and Game King, in which Life Coach was going to go first and opted to open pass, and thus played a round 2 in which he tried to basically catch up every single time, and it worked out really well for him, as spoilers, he won. And those were the 2 options he was balancing. He was balancing an open pass to
has yet
get
to
1 card out of him and
last.
go into round 2, or playing the Guardian. But I think definitely playing the Guardian was the best option, considering the damage that it does to your draws.
For me,
and because
Bilberry's honor.
a deck like Foltest is extremely vulnerable to mulligans, you don't want to add extra bad cards to the deck that can really hinder the ability for you to mulligan. Guardian's a very powerful card against Northern Realms and against Nilfgaard as well, ironically, as we see a very high tempo play there by Coleman. Coleman had to surpass the amount of strength Tailbot generated, because afterwards we could have seen a pass from Tailbot if he did not catch up to that, for the same exact reason, because he already got the Guardian in. That's the only reason he didn't open pass there, as Tailbot's going to go with another high tempo play there. Emir into potentially Kalak.
Patience is not a virtue I am known to have.
He's not a patient man.
Salak going to probably do the Emissary, try to get a nice chain of Emissaries and drop a Terra Enforcer. He's just going to get a Brigade straight up, so no Enforcer, no opportunity to chain any Emissaries. Not too bad though, because Emir is going to scoop up Salak and get another chance here.
Definitely was looking forward to for a chain, but he still has so much potential for one. He has double, he has to basically eliminate the emissaries first and try to chain them with the Victor Aromatics, right? But double emissary and Kalak in hand means that he can actually thin through his deck very efficiently. And if the enforcers start going down and Coleman does not have his crewmen ready, mom spaghetti, sorry, he will be punished very much. If he cannot answer those immediately, obviously this blue stripe scout doesn't happen. It's going to be spot right next to Ronvid, pulling the blue stripe commando out of the deck, and we're going to see what Tailbot opts to go. 26-26 is the current score.
A nice bookend there for the crewman between Ronvid and Blue Stripe Scout. It's unfortunate for Tailbot. He does not have that muzzle. He would easily be able to hit Ronvid down to 8 and steal him away, which is pretty devastating for the Northern Realms player in this situation. It's already difficult enough combating Nilfgaard. Nilfgaard, very efficient, very difficult deck to beat. Even in tournaments where players who are playing at the top of their game, anticipating everything Nilfgaard can do in a refined list that you can predict almost every card in the deck still performs so well in any situation. As Tailbot's going to go for the pass here now.
He was looking for that. He was looking for that. The only reason he didn't do it in turn 1 was because he wanted to get that Guardian in. And Koloman is going to basically proceed to play his most, how do I explain this? This is the play that invests most into further rounds.
Yeah.
This is technically a very heavy carryover play. Foltest is buffing everything in your hand and deck. So you're directing all that strength toward your other resources. So you're basically wasting the least amount of resources with that. And interesting situation. Even though the carryover strength does prevent an open pass, I expect Tailbot to push hard, especially because he still has not played the likes of Cantarella.
Koloman dodged a bit of a bullet there. He did have to mulligan away one of those lesser Guardians, and he does have to stick with one of them. Unfortunately, that is what the Guardian does. Kind of mucks up your draws, forces you to draw 2 pretty bad cards, vanilla bronze silvers, bronze 6-point bronzes. Where am I going with that one? And the mulligan there could have been a Blue Stripes Commando, as we see it come out of the deck right there. You never want to draw a Blue Stripes Commando. You always want to pull that by the Scout. Koloman did not mulligan badly in that situation. He is stuck with that 1 bronze card. He probably is going to look for a situation where he can play that, where he can afford to play that. Otherwise, he would just have to mulligan it later. But having those in the deck later, it makes it a little bit trickier for Dijkstra.
Yes, we're going to see an emissary chain here.
Your humble
the Impaired Enforcer blocking, placing the emissaries between the 2 crewmen to deny a little bit of value from the upcoming machines. As that is going to be enough to knock out that Blue Stripe Scout, which is definitely very huge if Koloman happened to have the likes of Reaver Scout in his hand, as he still has to play 1 more Blue Stripe Scout for that. Now, looking at both players' hands here, Tailbot has pretty much all the tools he needs. I'm going to be very intrigued to see how far Koloman is willing to push. He's trying to create that gap in which Tailbot has to waste an extra card. But will that be enough? Because you don't want a relatively long round against Nilfgaard spies. It can be very, very threatening, especially when your draws are hindered by the Guardian and you haven't thinned through your deck as efficiently as you would have liked. And down goes Kalak, fighting with the most strong. Oh, I like this. I like this. I love it. I love it. Excellent play by Tailbot, protecting the Impaired Enforcer from being eliminated by the Reinforced because he placed the emissaries in between the crewmen, and he also opted to bop the crewmen. But that was irrelevant. The placement of the emissaries, regardless of what he pulled, enabled him to protect that unit from being destroyed immediately by the ballista. So very strong. You don't tend to see Ambassador from Kalak, but that was really well timed by Tailbot.
For sure. Sayla can attack and can protect in this situation here. That Enforcer is here to stay. No scorching or any sort of easy way for that to be dealt with for the Koloman here, as the Enforcer pings off the Emissary, putting it in the graveyard for Tailbot to perhaps resource later with the Vicovaro Medic. Koloman is going to make a decision here. He's going to lock up that Enforcer, saying, all right, you're going to play that buff here, let's reset it, get all that value gone, and future value also denied. Pretty strong Margarita here. I was actually wondering if he was going to play Margarita earlier than that, but this is probably the best option here.
It is. Margarita with a 15-point swing and denying all the potential snowballing value of an Enforcer is as good as a Margarita you're going to get, right? As Tailbot is looking over his graveyard, basically to note what's left in his deck and what the potential draws are for him, as it's going to be interesting to see what he opts to go with here. I think he has to continue this emissary chain, but instead is going to drop the Imperial Brigade to get that 10 strength boost and that discipline on his side.
I mean, it's pretty good. I mean, we're seeing Tailbot kind of in an advantageous position once again, as every card Koloman plays puts Tailbot in a situation where he is going to be up in cards, and if he can close that gap, which is becoming more and more likely the more tools he is able to develop on his side, the Imperial Enforcers and the Imperial Brigade, snowball units makes it harder and harder for Tailbot, or sorry, for Koloman to fight in this round, and he is now going down on cards. Even though he was able to start second, that pass on the tie was very strong from Tailbot.
hovering over the reinforced siege tower, gonna perhaps drop it right next to Ronvid for that 13-point value, but then switching over to the ballista. I think you should preserve the reinforced ballista for another potential enforcer. Yeah, he does exactly. So 13 points right there for Coleman, putting him ahead by a total of 21 points. Math.
Tailbot's gonna have to really push here, and maybe just develop a few more units that are gonna help him long term. And, it's very interesting, this situation here. If you watch the Life Coach Game King matchup yesterday, every time I looked at the screen in that matchup, didn't matter who went first, didn't matter what was going on. Life Coach seemed to have a card over Game King, always keeping that advantageous position here. I think Tailbot is taking kind of a similar approach here. I think that pass is so strong. And now it's going to get harder and harder here for Coleman. And knowing that Coleman has no Scorch, this makes it a little bit more free to play these large Emperor brigades that aren't staggered at all. They are lining up on points, but it isn't going to be as dangerous as it would be in a different matchup.
And there is one emissary in Coleman's graveyard, which means that Vicar Varometa can continue with the spy chain and can fish for that next enforcer, which at this point is not as prevalent, but can help a little bit with at least preventing potential improvements if they were to develop. That's the second reinforced siege tower. Goes down right next to Ronvid, providing with another 13-point play. And again, as you mentioned earlier, he knows Tailbot is not running Scorch. He knows Tailbot is not running Igni. The knowledge of what each player has plays a big role in how they opt to position and how they opt to sequence here, as the Vicar Varometa is going to go down, going to place the emissary again to prevent that value, and a second emissary going to go down. And gonna fish for that other emissary right there. Gonna provide him with a very, very nice chain, and he does get the enforcer. He cannot afford to go for the third Vicar Varometa at crash time as the enforcer goes down. It's gonna be interesting to see what he opts to hit here.
What a turn right here. This is very Nilfgaard. This is the kind of thing you see a lot on the ladder here. Just big chains, every spy coming down, buffing brigades, giving another proc to the Emperor enforcers, which are retroactive as they ping every time a disloyal unit is played on the opponent's side of the board, making this it's always going to be close enough at this point for Tailbot. Now he's got the enforcer in 2 brigades, and he still has disloyal units in Joachim. There's the pass from Coleman. Tailbot's now going to make it up here with the card, and we're going to go into round 3. Even on cards, Tailbot will be acting first.
Excellent pass there by Coleman. Acknowledging that at this point with triple engine, he's not going to be able to create enough of a strength gap to prevent that from happening. I think you can definitely justify Vanhamar here. It is going to be the least reliable in a short round 3. Especially considering he's running Kara Met, which does add 2 armors to 3 units, so it can really weaken the overdose, as it is a random effect. I think you drop Vanhamar here. I think you 100% drop, unless you want to go with a Frost effect.
I mean, I think the Infiltrator is fine. It gets the job done. It also leaves, Menno is able to activate with Cantarella, Rainfarn with Joachim in hand. Cantarella can come out from Rainfarn, so Menno has at least a great target there. Doesn't have to rely so much on the Infiltrator to get that value, and he can preserve Vanhamar for perhaps, just that big value play that Vanhamar is able to do, or in a longer round. And this is a fairly long round for round 3. Applying Weather is an option still.
I don't think, as I said yesterday, big spies in round 3, caca, no good. You don't want to give your opponents points by any means. Even if you have Menno, that's only going to make your Menno worth 8 realistically when it comes to points. As Swim said, well, what he says, points matter, points don't matter. He says so many things, but basically.
One of those 2 things, I'm sure.
One of the 2, I can assure that. But yeah, he does not want Cantarella. He replaced Joachim there to be able to pull it with Rainfarn. And he has such a sick hand right here. While Coleman does have quite some power, but that Lesser Guardian is quite the inconvenience.
Now, Coleman had the option of mulliganing that away, but he opted to not mulligan it away. You look at that Temerian Infantryman, which is on the draw for round 3. The potential to mulligan out of the Guardian and into the Infantryman is just it's just a little bit too tough to do. You don't want to take that kind of risk, but unfortunately that means you have to hold on to a 6-strength bronze card that does nothing in that situation. So it's a dilemma in that situation. 2 unfavorable positions as the Nausicaa Brigade comes down to slice up that emissary. It's a lot of point potential in both players' hand, but that extra card that Coleman has right now, if you look at the Guardian, it's barely extra card. It's like half a card.
It is, as that was not perhaps the pull he was looking for. I believe he still has unless I'm mistaken, I believe he still has one more Enforcer in his deck at least. And there goes a bronze 24-point swing for Koloman because of that Blast Blue Stripes Commando sitting in his deck, as the Guardian is putting the work here. It's hindered his draws, and it's made it so that Koloman could not get that third Blue Stripe Scout, as he misses out on quite a bit of value here, because of Voltage, those could have been 7s, so definitely a big difference. Now, Banhamar should be played relatively, as soon as there are 6 or more units, I would think Banhamar needs to be played before Karamet can potentially happen. As I explained earlier, Karamet adds 2 armor to 3 different units, so that can really hinder it. And here we're going to go with Vilgefortz. What will he pull? He's risking the Joaquin here, though.
He is, yeah.
Oh, the muzzle, though. All right, that's pretty good.
Yeah, not bad, right? 12 points, you're going to take it, I guess. I think that, we see that Blue Stripes Commando, just another reason why Koloman's hands were tied a little bit on the mulligan. There was just too many cards he didn't want to see in that situation. So he's going to take that muzzle there. 12 points from Vilgefortz, not too shabby, not too shabby. Overall, 19 points, losing that 1 point Vico Varomatic as well. It's a pretty good answer to the 24-point Temerian onslaught there that just occurred.
If only I had a girl with name.
It is true. But again, the players know the decks right now, know that Scorch is not a thing, Igni is not a thing in this situation. Kirametz, however, is a potential possibility, and Dijkstra can pull it. It is possible. Dijkstra can also pull one of those Lesser Guardians, which is not good. So, there is potential for that to still haunt Koloman. Unfortunately, as Rainfart's going to come down here, this could be the Joaquin play we were talking about.
It's going to be very vulnerable to a shiny Resurrection to Margarita, unfortunately. It depends on what he pulls here. Right now, he doesn't want to Infiltrator realistically, but it's going to be one of the most likely pulls, I believe, as it indeed is. The Infiltrator can target a 6 unit, which makes Menno into a 14-point play, which is not bad, but it's also not amazing. He is dispersing his spies across the road because he is taking Commander Zorn into consideration. He wants one of the spies to be buffed so that his Menno will get even more value out of that. So that selection was not random. He's trying to really disperse it so that there's no way Commander Zorn cannot hit a spy, and he has to wait for that Commander Zorn to hit. But because he does not have last say, Koloman could preserve Commander Zorn for the very end and prevent that extra value, as we're going to see the Reinforced Ballista go down with 1 crewman and just going to hit the traitor.
I think that holding on to Commander's Horn is totally fine, as it is a huge play,
yes.
But also knowing that Tailbot is running Peter Sargwenlev means that those buffs will be preserved. As Menno doesn't have the greatest targets here, but at least he has something to go on here. And of course, playing Commander's Horn last does protect a little bit against Menno value and Peter Sargwenlev value. As Vandemar's going to come down, drop that overdose, hit those 6 units. Ronvik does get hit, so that kind of absorbs one of those hits, but that is what it is right now. Tailbot still has a pretty strong lead here. It might just come down to Dijkstra, I think, in this situation.
It's also unfortunate because he also hit the Blue Stripes Commando spy, right? So that also technically kind of weakens Menno as well. As we're gonna see Shani into Margarita gonna take away 10 points.
If I live to see it.
And you will live to see it, Margarita. You will. You're great. I love you.
Yeah, this is a close one right now, Miguel. I think that, Peter's not looking so great. Menno's not looking so great.
It's looking rough. 20
points looking at Commander's Horn and Dijkstra. I mean, even if it hits the Guardian for one of the cards, I think it might just be enough.
It's looking rough for the Empire.
The common folk. I care for them.
He's such a good guy. He cares for the common folk. Good guy, Peter. Good guy, Peter, unfortunately, is only going to provide Tailbot with a 9-point swing. So, good guy, Peter. Kind of useless guy, Peter.
I mean, Peter's in there for other matchups in this situation. The Commander's Horn is something you'd want to grab, but Koloman's in a position where he's just going to play Commander's Horn last here. Definitely protects here. Dijkstra, there's Kira. Oh, that's pretty good. I think that pretty much seals the deal here.
It does. Koloman is going to... It is a sad day for, fellow Nilfgaardians, as Koloman is going to be able to take this match with that last 2-2 right there, as this is actually like a very weak pull.
Must die!
It's just going to buff itself, but it's going to be enough, as that Commander's Horn is representing 20 points, and this Menno has been significantly weakened, and can only target Joaquin for a 13-point swing, which is not even enough for him to catch up, and he's going to pass here. Koloman with the victory, equally the score. We're in for a tight set, ladies and gentlemen.
1-1 here in semifinals match number 1 at Gwent Challenger 2 here. Great to have you here on a beautiful Sunday evening here in Poland. So far, so good here. Tailbot leading off with a very favorable matchup in Henselt on the red coin for the first match here. going in with Nilfgaard, getting stopped. It was fairly close. I think that Commander's Horn holding on to the end there was pretty key. And we're going to find out what the players are going to take in there. I mean, overall, that matchup, it looked like Talebot was able to, he had a potential to maybe get ahead there with cards, and then ultimately Coleman just be able to equalize that. Having that last say was so important, I think, in that matchup.
Oh, it definitely was. That sequencing was great. Even though Talebot had a very nice lead and a very good, solid pass with the Guardian being able to get that extra card out of Coleman, it proved to not be enough, and he executed that Foltest beautifully and was able to overpower Nilfgaard Spies, which is easier said than done in this current metagame.
Oh no, Vest was going for the Sun Ring. Nilfgaard is not a fan of that.
Take her away.
Gaunter freezing
To
her.
the dungeon with you.
Gaunter working with Nilfgaard. Uh-oh, maybe Emir has made a bargain he's not going to be fond of in the future.
Disgraceful.
Hidden Witcher storyline happening here at Gwent Challenger before our eyes, live action.
Yeah, and this time he guessed higher than 5. You always guess higher than 5.
A stoic heart of stone indeed. Players are getting ready here for match 3. So far, pretty intense, fairly close games. Not much to say as far as like the decisions made here. We're gonna have Unseen Elder going up against King Bran. Let's go, round 3.
Carryover versus Carryover, the movie. We're gonna witness double Necker in the opening hand. That is pretty much technically what you want to see, but in this particular case, it's not as big of a deal because Coleman's Unseen Elder is actually way less greedy than other variants. Instead of running triple Necker Warrior, he runs Ekimaras instead. And it's a very interesting list because it does still threaten with a lot of carryover, but it doesn't fully rely on Neckers to be successful, which is why I think a lot of players opt to go with this instead. It's interesting to see what value Karen may find, especially looking at this hand. It doesn't seem like it's looking for great sources. It may try to deny or force a resurrection out of Morkvarg, which will potentially proc Seris.
Yeah, I mean, I like Kayran in the list from a tournament standpoint. Obviously, in the Nilfgaard matchup, Kayran is able to gobble up an Enforcer or maybe an unproc Imperv if it were to come from hand. And ultimately, depending if Coleman wins or loses this game, having Unseen Elder against Nilfgaard is probably just fine. Kayran being the choice there. Woodland Spirit not drawn here, and neither was Gels, so that means that having Woodland Spirit early on for perhaps an Unseen Elder tempo play to gobble up the Wolves, source the Harpies from the deck, and just have one of those really strong plays that makes best use of the advantage of going second in this situation. As Talebot goes ahead and drops King Bran. Now, interestingly, Talebot's King Bran list a little bit different than Coleman's. He has Olgierd and Morkvarg as well as Seris. So those are the cards that are in the graveyard right now. Well, sorry, Olgierd's in the graveyard, and Seris, Morkvarg coming right back up.
Talebot's King Bran is what you would call a little bit more old school, while Coleman's deck is, what I'm talking about, King Bran, is actually more similar to Life Coach. It's basically like the new cool guy, Skellige. It's utilizing a different gold core, but when it comes to Talebot, this is pretty standard old school Seris discard, and that Ekimara is very well timed because as of right now, Seris will not spawn out of the graveyard if Talebot were to pass, which means that in this precise moment, Coleman's carryover is superior to Talebot's.
I like the Whale Harpooner here. The Whale Harpooner would pull the Ekamar onto the range row, bring it to 8 strength, which means it's now a muzzleable target.
Yes.
Taking that away from Coleman would be pretty big.
Coleman has absolutely no answer to muzzle, so he's extremely vulnerable here. And the fact that this play also enables Talebot to stay ahead means that if he passes, he's just going to lose round 1 going down 1 card, which is not something you want to do, especially when you're facing another deck that also relies on carryover somewhat, right? So this is a very, very nice timing for the Whale Harpooner, and it puts Coleman in a bit of a predicament here. He definitely needs to continue pushing, but if he gets his own Ekimara stolen, which he is definitely aware of the fact that, the beautiful thing is also that it's a 7 strength, so even if he does steal it, he can't eat it with Kayran. It puts him in a very rough spot here.
I like Unseen Elder here gobbling up 2 beasts, getting at least 2 Harpies out, as well as getting an extra boost from the egg, creating a Harpy hatchling, which at the very least, the Harpy hatchling and an additional Harpy, at the very least, the Ekamara can eat up that last Harpy to create just a little bit more carryover for Coleman, and also sourcing that last Harpy, as they always come out of the deck whenever a beast is consumed. Ekamara consuming that beast and just providing a little bit more carryover. Carryover is the name of the game in this one, Miguel. We got Morkvarg and Olgierd and Seris on Talebot's side, and for Coleman, we've got Neckers to worry about on top of the Ekamara.
I really like the timing of this Unseen Elder. I believe it is so that Coleman can have enough of the tempo swing so that if Tailbot goes for the muzzle play now, it will be 14 points, which will not put him at a point in which he surpasses him in strength. It will put him at 27 points, which means that Coleman could potentially pass after this and deny the carryover game. But when your own deck relies on that kind of strategy as well, it's just hard to say when to pass in this matchup. And regardless of, you know, whether he was expecting or not, this muzzle hurts.
Yeah.
It hurts like a bee. PG. Sorry.
Taking that resilient target is huge. You know, more carryover just strengthens Tailbot's strategy in the first place here, as Coleman deciding if it's worthwhile to perhaps play the Ekimara and get that last Harpy out. You do want to thin your deck from all your, you know, they're bad cards you put in the deck, but you never want to play them from hand. Harpies in this situation, of course, we saw Northern Realms does have a lot of those cards as well. Coleman is going to develop a little bit of carryover. He has to develop some. You know, it's hard to go against this at this point. So we're going to see that last Harpy come out of the deck here, and you know the point lead is still significant enough that Tailbot does have to commit some significant resources here.
Coleman with the 13-point swing, advantage, and we see Tailbot hovering over the graveyard. Seris still requires an extra resurrection to happen so that she will come out in the next round. So I think a Warmonger here is a pretty straightforward play, which would enable him to thin through his deck a little bit and give him an 11-point swing, which is not going to enable him to catch up, but he's going to be pretty close to that.
You know, and just kind of overall, depending on how long this round is going to go, you can, having the Warmonger out allows the Battle Maiden, of course, to source it. The Battle Maiden can also pull another Whale Harpooner, line up some rows so a Lacerate is able to maybe to easily take a round situation. So looks like the Warmonger is going to come down here. Is he gonna put the Armor Smith in there just like Coleman did in the previous match to get that extra flexibility?
No,
he's going to go with the Raider instead because points are pretty important right now. He wants to get that gap a little bit closer together.
Yeah, like Armor Smith doesn't make much sense there because he's facing a very proactive deck that has very few resources to actually deal damage, unless we're talking about the likes of Woodland Spear and setting up a fog, right? So I like that Warmonger play. It's pretty straightforward, but why switch it up when that play is proving to be, you know, an efficient play? That is the Tailbot way.
And I think that Battle Maiden on the Warmonger as well is a pretty significant play as well. So now that is available to Tailbot. Allows him to thin his deck a little bit more and, of course, continue to play this thing as the Ericus Venom here. Talking about proactive decks, not a lot of pings here. Coleman just going to drop that Abea, and he is actually going to apply a fair amount of pings here. And, you know, a lot of wounded units on Tailbot's side here. Coleman didn't see an Armor Smith go into the graveyard. He may have just saw an opportunity there. You can see how Coleman was thinking in the previous matchup. Tailbot just wanted to go for points. It's like, you want to go for points? Here's my big play here. I'm not worried about any weather you can apply. Abea is just going to be a value play here.
Remember when I said Armor Smith wasn't a good idea?
Take that back.
I take it back. Armor Smith would be excellent here, but unfortunately it is not in the graveyard because you have to go with that instead, playing into Abaya, which is pretty much the only source of direct damage that Coleman is running in his deck. But he's going to go for the Battle Maiden onto the Warmonger, and I expect him to discard Armor Smith this time around. That would be excellent. The problem with this, obviously, is that Coleman will see it and will be able to play around it, but he did discard the Armor Smith, unless I vision things. No, he discarded the Warmonger.
Discarded another Warmonger, so he's able to actually res that Warmonger with the Freya and just kind of keep doing a little bit more thinning and just more pressure plays here, because that would be enough to take the round there. It's interesting, Coleman did not see an Armor Smith go into the graveyard, and that does make sense. Like what you said before about the Armor Smith not being as good in this matchup, that was true. Coleman, the Armor Smith could have been in Tailbot's hand as well. Obviously, maybe not worried about that in that situation, but being able to heal up and strengthen this Ekimara would be pretty huge right now for Tailbot.
Yeah, I mean, he can always just res that Warmonger and discard the Armor Smith after that and thin his deck a little bit more, but then that would leave him a little bit susceptible to drawing into Clonic Blade Raiders in the late game, so I don't think that's the approach he's going for. He does drop the 8 strength Necker, knowing that his opponent has already played Muzzle. He doesn't have to fear another Muzzle, and that Kayran, like, you could make an argument for playing Kayran onto the Ekimara to deny the carrier, right? But at this point, because Seris is at 2 procs, and we have Morkvark on the field and Old Geared in the graveyard, the carryover advantage is was already pretty much set at that point until this Necker hit the board. Carryover is going to be a big factor here, especially because both strategies do kind of revolve around it, even though Monster's carryover is a little bit more
Bow
brutal.
before modern Freya.
Tailbot going to stay the course here. He's going to res the Warmonger that he put in the graveyard.
And now
There's the Armor Smith. So this might be a pretty good time. Coleman's going to quickly peek at that graveyard and think about, you know, if he's going to heal up that Ekamara, maybe I am going to eat it up with K-Ren.
After he heals it, though, he has no reason to do so before.
Of course,
that,
after he heals
yeah.
it, because it was a 7 on the board. Of course, it was a 7 on the board, but when it heals up, it is at 6, which is K-Ren's threshold.
Now, the thing about these Warmonger plays is, as I mentioned prior, he still has double Cloud on Clay Raider in his deck. One of them can be discarded with YOLO right there, Mr. Ulderic, which is sitting at the far right of his hand. But the other one, I'm not sure how he could potentially discard it, unless he just resurrects the form.
Yeah, later on he'll be able to
But he's
do
already,
that.
if he resurrects the Armor Smith here, he's wasted 2 of his reses, so he's also running out of that. Even though Restore is a thing, but Restore will only work on Freya if you have discarded it prior, so it's a little bit of an iffy situation here. He has to be very careful with how he spends his resources here. Now the question is the Will Harpooner enough? It is. It is enough.
Yeah, no, Tailbot has answers here, so he is able to take this around.
Going down 1 card though, but he does have the Spy. But Coleman is also running Frightener in this list, so he could potentially counter his Spy with his own. Here we go. Tailbot taking the first round, and going into round 2 with 1 card down, but the Silver Spy in hand and superior carryover. No, actually no, the Necker's going to go out, so not superior carryover. He's going down by 1.
Don't forget about Olgierd.
I am so sorry. He does have superior carryover with the Ogre right there, so yeah, let's do this.
It's really strong right now. So what were the draws there? Oh, Woodland Spirit is very, very good for Coleman. Didn't draw Frightener, so Tailbot does have the opportunity to play Ulderic and have no real kind of card advantage answer in this situation. So that will help out a little bit.
Yes.
Having that superior carryover, it doesn't necessarily afford him to play Ulderic with any sense of sure safety without committing further resources to, you know, really push ahead. But I think that Ulderic does definitely have to be played in this round.
He's gonna lead off with it immediately. Oh, and that's a great pull. One of the Cloud and Clay Raiders being drawn, which means that when he picks up this Will Harpooner, the other Raider will be spawned onto the board or resurrected. As it is discarded to the graveyard. It's still not enough to make up for the strength gap, and Coleman could potentially pass here to get that extra card. Tailbot does not, like, he's put in a position where Coleman is already ahead, which is what I'm trying to say, and Coleman can really start pressuring him and make it very difficult to get that extra card out of it, because Tailbot could try to push him a little bit more, but I think I would rather expect an early pass from Tailbot to deny the Neckers, you know, building up throughout this round, because I think he can really, he's already got all his carryover, you know, set up, right? While Coleman can continue to buff his own, and he does know that he's running triple Ekimaras and, you know, Neckers and such, so it's definitely going to be a very interesting scenario. I think I would not be surprised to see an early pass from Tailbot trying to go into a relatively long round, especially considering he has good cards like Will Harpooner, Coral, which can completely, I mean, Coral can be played now to deny the Necker as well. I think Coral is very justified here.
I think Coral wouldn't be bad. I think Coral has, you know, he's looking at the Ekamara and the Necker. The Necker is fairly threatening at this point. It is going to be played here. And, you know, if Tailbot passes, there's actually a potential that Renew would get bricked in that situation, as we haven't seen Gals 2 golds in hand. No way to really consume or kill those gold cards on Coleman's side. The Ekamaras aren't available at this point because I believe at this point all 3 of them have been played. So if Tailbot were to pass before a gold card is played here, that would make Renew, well, you just mulligan it away, I suppose, but it would make Renew, you know, not so great.
We see K-Ren and Woodland Spirit in his hand. One of these 2 should go down soon, as you said. Now the question is, do you sacrifice a little bit of tempo and try to eliminate the Morkvark so that, because if you consume it, if you eliminate it, if you hit it, it will respawn onto the board, and then it will not be a thing in the next round. And that will take 1 proc off of Seris, but we do see not 1, not 2, but 3 reses in Tailbot's hand. So it's safe to assume, and still 1 Raider, so it's very safe to assume that he's going to be easily able to get that Seris out, which is why I love his Warmonger sequencing early on, as the Woodland Spirit hits the board, pulls the Foglet out of the deck, and hits the range row, weakening Seris down to 5, and putting Coleman in a very nice lead. And now this Fog is going to continuously take each turn, and it's going to be very hard for Tailbot to get an extra card out of him. I think Tailbot should really be aiming to pass soon here, unless he he wants a bit of a shorter round. It's hard to say because right now the carryover is in Tailbot's advantage, as Morkborg will represent 1 strength, Olgierd will represent 2, but Seris, which will not come out immediately but will definitely be able to be pulled out, represents 7. So we're talking about a total of 10 points in comparison to Koloman's 6. And that's very good because if you're able to defeat monsters carryover, you take a lot of their advantage in the other rounds.
Woodland Spirit was very good here. Obviously puts Tailbot in a tough position here. Also is the superior Renew target here, as Kayran is going to see maybe limited viability. Grimace is going to come down here, not to clear the weather though, but to actually get the Ekimara out of Fog's range here. You know, because this round could go long enough that, you know, that Fog could get value. It's doubtful that Tailbot is going to commit too much more here. He is able to kind of customize his hand here for round 3. He is in the driver's seat. The Whale Harpooner gets a lot of value. There's a pretty big row here for the Whale Harpooner to drag something into that 6-point row, as far as, or 6, I should say, 6 additional value for a 14-point Whale Harpooner. Having those 3 reses really is fairly strong for Tailbot in round 3.
This is a super intense round, by the way.
Yeah, no Manticore in the graveyard for the Ghoul or the Monster Nest either.
This is super intense because it's just not clear. Like, we have obviously Seris and a bunch of resurrections going on for Tailbot, but Koloman is really threatening here as well. He cannot go for the Necker because that is the last Necker in his deck, as he's not bringing Necker Warriors. But he's going to opt to go for the Slizzard onto the Selenium Harpy, which pulls it out of the deck, providing him with a nice carryover there, 2 points of carryover, and also thinning through his deck 1. And it's 1 card that he doesn't want to draw in round 3, so very, very intense right now, this match.
I think Tailbot could consider playing the Whale Harpooner here just to see one more card, one more resource spent from Koloman, and you know it's a fair play here. He's gonna actually go for one of his reses here.
Onto Ekimara, beautiful.
Like
that's why he consumed it with a Gremist earlier, not because of the Fog, but because he wanted to be able to get that carryover played on again. And with that 9 strength, unless Koloman goes for the Monster Nest into a Drowner, he cannot really answer this Ekimara. So I wouldn't be shocked to see this play, actually, considering he already has a Ghoul in hand. So if you were to draw the Toad Prince into Manticore combo, he still has a way to capitalize on it. So I think Monster's Nest is definitely justified here to try to deny that carryover and weaken it.
Yeah, get a Drowner, drag that Ekimara into the Fog. I was thinking earlier on about Ekimara and how it would have been also a fine Restore target if Restore was drawn. Just, you know, being able to just get a little bit extra out of that card. As, you know, the carryover game gets pretty strong. No Neckers on the board for Koloman there. And Tailbot is, you know, looking like he'll have not an issue getting ahead if he wants to, but of course he's in a position to pass at any point here. Here comes the Monster Nest. It is going to be the Drowner into the Fog for the Ekimara.
Yep. The clock is ticking. That was close. We set a bit of let's call it Rope Koloman. Ropamon. Ropamon, I like that. Ropamon. Ropamon playing the Drowner right there, and pulling the Ekimara onto the range row, dropping it to 3. If another turn passes, it will go down to 1. And it is also susceptible to Kayran at this point. Koloman really going down in resources here, though. And Tailbot setting up for a very tight round 3 in which he can still enable Seris. Because, like I said, Morkborg and Olgierd will proc twice. And then, even if one of those 2 got denied, Freya could go onto the Warmonger and resurrect it, and then discard the last Raider in his deck, and still proc it. But I think we're going to see a pass from him now. He's happy with his hand here. He's had enough. He doesn't want his carryover to be weakened, and he's going to go with a pass here. And we're going to see a very tight round 3. I honestly don't know who's going to take it. This is very intense, and it's going to really come down to draws and also like just how well their game plans planned out here. But this is a very intense matchup, and these 2 players just living up to the hype, as this match is just, this set has been excellent.
This is a fantastic set here. Not much to really criticize at this point. Here comes the carryover for Tailbot and the carryover for Koloman. Everything's going to settle out here. Looks pretty good. You're going to get rid of that Raider right away. Get out of my hand. I was actually going to ask you here, in a short round, Gerald Igni, you know, I was going to, oh, there's the Manticore too, so this is very, very interesting. If the Manticore ends up being the Igni target after like a Whale Harpooner perhaps pulls the Manticore in, Igni needs to get value some way. The Manticore goes into the graveyard. That's actually pretty decent for Koloman. He's able to, you know, since the Manticore is a no ability 13 strength body, the Ghoul is basically acting as a resurrect in this situation. He'll get all of that value right back. Tailbot's just kind of left playing a 5-point gold one way or another.
But the thing is, I believe in this matchup, if Tailbot does end up getting value out of Igni, it will be his very last play because he has last say. it is a very huge deal for him. That Igni, I'm not sure whether it will find value or not. It depends on, because if he does play the Manticore out of the melee row range, the Woolen Sport will spawn 3 units onto that melee row. So bringing that Manticore onto the melee row will deal even more now. Like, it will deal so much damage to the Manticore that I don't know if Igni will still be even possible after that.
Yeah, it's going to be really hard. I mean, Coleman knows that Igni is being run by Tailbot, so, you know, that being a potential gold card that's in Tailbot's hand, you know, it's probably, I mean, Tailbot was probably not thrilled to see Igni there, but he was less thrilled about the Raider. At least Igni is 1 more point from hand if it doesn't get anything.
And also very important to note out that Woolen Spirit onto the melee row is no coincidence, folks. He's playing around Will Harpooner. He's like, you want to play Will Harpooner? You want to hunt whales? Well, PETA is coming for you. I'm going to punish you by placing everything in the melee row and thus forcing you to place it on the melee row and thus, you know, take the damage from the fog. So every single, these are micro decisions that really make the difference, especially in a very short round like this. Excellent gameplay by Coleman, and at the same time, excellent play by Tailbot as well. Like, these two players are just so good. As we're going to see a Blood Cooling Roar onto the Morkbarks by the Grimace, providing him with a very solid, I believe it is a 16-point play. That's pretty decent.
You know, this is going to be really, really close. The Igni is not looking great for Tailbot. We're already tied right here. And you are right. The Whale Harpooner, to get that value, would have to venture into the fog. You know, with, you know, might still be, you know, the highest value play. You know, you did phrase it very well. It is really all about maximizing the value of each and every card at this level of play. Every decision you make, you got to play the value game, and it's really hard when you get players at this level to kind of edge out, get that extra point that matters in this situation here. Igni, however, I think is going to prove to be a little bit of a liability here for Tailbot. A fine card to run with Whale Harpooners as well, but in a round where you don't have all the control and there just may not be enough points on the board, Coleman can play around it, even with the Whale Harpooner, even with a 13 strength Manticore.
Indeed, it makes it so awkward, and Coleman has no reason to play any more cards into the middle row. He knows exactly what he's facing, and he knows exactly what he has to try to avoid. As you said, Geralt Igni could prove to be the reason why Tailbot goes down this game, but don't, like I said, both players were at 3 cards each, 20 points. It is tied. It's going to come down to these sequences, and I don't know about you, but I am not in the mood for Bath. I want to be shocked. I want to be surprised. I want to see how impactful that Seris is. 1 more countdown for it, which will be procced by the Freya. He can resurrect whatever he wants, and Seris will come out. So Tailbot with still quite a bit of power left, as he's going to go for the Will Harpoon onto the melee row, but again, that's going to be punished by the fog, and he's going to completely wipe out the Karen and get a nice 5-point lead. But those last 2 plays by Coleman are looking to be very strong, and that Igni, I just don't see that Igni getting value.
Well, not at this point. With a Whale Harpooner, the only chance that Tailbot had was to Whale Harpooner something huge, like a Manticore perhaps, onto that melee row and get a little bit of value on it. But in this situation now, that is the play there. Miguel, why do you think he played the Whale Harpooner before the Freya in this situation? Or actually, arguably, if he doesn't think that Igni is going to get value, potentially just playing Igni.
Well, he could. Freya can be anything. So he could always Freya into another Harpooner. He has a lot of freedom in that sense. And I'm actually really intrigued to see what he's going to opt to res here. It's not like he has great options, to be fair. And, man, this Dead Igni. This Dead Igni is just really devastating right now. This is a very tight game, but it may come down to that. Tailbot really thinking here. He has to play Freya, but the question is, what do you resurrect? A Whale Harpooner, a Warmonger. Does he have the Armor Smith in his graveyard?
He does. He does have it there.
There. That's also not a bad option. Like, that prevents quite a bit of damage. He can also stall out the fog for the remaining, but no, he's going to go for the Whale Harpooner. Going to bring that Manticore. I'm ready. There's Seris. He's going to pull it to the melee row, but because of the damage that is below 25, Geralt Igni will not find home. And it all comes down to what this goal will eat. This is so intense, because even though that Igni is 5 points, okay. Fine, let's do some math. Okay, 5 plus 39, 44. Yeah, he's got him.
Tailbot's got it. The Ghoul is 11 points, and Tailbot already has a pretty significant lead right there. The Drowner being probably the best target for the Ghoul.
Got it. Even with the Dead Igni, what a match. That was so tight. Like I thought that Geralt Igni was just really gonna cost him the match there, but the Wolf did not have good enough of a target right there, and Tailbot manages to win and move over to 2-1 over Coleman. Excellent game.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're going play-by-play right there, but that Whale Harpooner was absolutely massive. 7 or 8 points, or 7 or 8 units on that front row already, being able to drag that in. 8 points to begin with. Fog's already ticking on one of the Whale Harpooners, no big deal. Freya being able to resource that extra damage. Igni notwithstanding, he had a great play there. The Ghoul just wasn't enough. The Manticore drawn a little bit too late for Coleman in that match.
Yeah, definitely. And also, like, even though Geralt Igni was going to be dead there, it also forced Coleman to play into the Whale Harpooner. So the synergy goes both ways. And what?
Somebody owes somebody money.
I kind of missed that. But yeah, that was a very interesting match. And also, like, I just wanted to really focus on each individual play and not try to think too much ahead. It's nice, you know, to be surprised. And that was such an interesting series, honestly. Like, that, it's getting to a point in which this is very tight. Tailbot only has, I believe, Emir Spies left.
Not bad when you have 2 more shots to take this semifinals matchup to earn your way into the finals. And we're going to find out the winner of this matchup will play the winner of Freddy Babes versus Life Coach coming up right after this set. Already looking pretty good here. Tailbot is in a pretty good position. Nilfgaard Spies, a fantastic deck to have multiple tries to win here. Coleman does have to win with his remaining decks, which is Unseen Elder and the full test, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, no. He got to win with the full test. He needs to win with King Bran and with Unseen Elder right here.
Right,
so
Henselt was the winner in the first match.
This is a very, very interesting matchup. Even though Tailbot is running Peter Sar Gwynleave, which has the potential to completely counter the Neckers, Coleman is not running Necker Warriors and thus relies less on that type of carryover compared to more greedy builds. But the thing about the Guardian here is that it is absolutely unanswerable in this matchup. There is no card whatsoever in Coleman's deck that can prevent this Guardian from getting its effect going off, and that is pretty massive, as we've seen before how impactful this Guardian can be in disrupting builds. Even though he did lose the matchup against Foltest, he put in a lot of work there.
Coleman has a pretty good row to apply this Woodland Spirit. Now, he didn't have this as a lead-off option in the game we just saw, but now he does have those 3 Wolves on the board. Unseen Elder's best target for a strong tempo play that also thins the deck of the Harpies, which pop out every time a beast is consumed. So Coleman should be able to push ahead here, being able to act second. Tailbot once again leading off with the Guardian. Very good first play, very good first round play as well for Nilfgaard, as Vanimar's going to come out and just get rid of this Fog altogether.
Also eliminating the Fog before the field as well, providing him with a 9-point swing. Very decent for Vanhamar, especially considering how much more value it's prevented as the round would progress. The thing about, another thing to point here is that Muzzle can be extremely threatening because of the synergy with Impair Enforcers. Impair Enforcers can ping on the buffed up Ekimaras, reducing them to 8 points, and then Muzzle can steal that carryover, and we already know how devastating of a play that is. So there's a lot of things going on for the Spy matchups here, but one thing to say for, in favor of the Unseen Elder player is that we see Gels in the hand, right? Gels can pull either a gold or a silver, and if it pulls Kayran, he can utilize that to eat an Impera Enforcer, which is a very strong play because it is the maximum mathematical value that Kayran will gain, and also it denies the Spy engine early on. So we see an Unseen Elder here onto the Triple Wolves, running with a nice and 17-point swing and putting Coleman 11 points ahead. I
mean, what you said may have actually been redundant. An Enforcer as a Kayran target mathematically may actually be the best thing that Kayran can eat in the game.
Yes,
like, it's just preventing so much value. So much value from Tailbot. I mean, he does have an Enforcer in hand, which is somewhat unfavorable. You do want to play them from emissaries, but you take what you can get here. Either way, outside of actually protecting that Enforcer by buffing it, he's going to get the Imperial Brigade here. So the engine is now revving up here for Tailbot in this Nilfgaard game, which he does have to clear to secure match point in the semifinals.
Now, even though his hand may seem a little bit clunky, Tailbot does have some ways to generate a crazy spy chain here. Because of that Enforcer in hand, he can actually play it and hit the Emissary, and afterwards resurrect it with the Vicovaro Medic and hope for a nice chain to capitalize on that. But even if he doesn't get that chain, he has a second chance to do so because of the triple Vic of Aura Medics he's running. He can search for another Impair Enforcer, hit the Emissary again, and try once more. So it's very likely that Tailbot will actually be able to generate, because the last resort could just be Rainfarm to pull the Emissary. So it's looking like a decent hand for Tailbot, but the question is, how will he manage to deal with the carryover game of Coleman, especially considering that he's going first?
I mean, one solution is be able maybe to burn down an Ekimara a little bit, seal it with the muzzle. It's one way to get there, but it is going to be tough overall, considering that there is no lock. I mean, Peter Gwenlev coming out from Emir is a great solution for Nekkers, not in his hand, unfortunately.
Tight situation right there. Coleman manages to still stay ahead by 4 points, as Tailbot is threatening with going down -2 because of this Impair Enforcer play. So we could see that. The problem is Coleman does kind of rely a lot on its carryover. So when you have a strategy like this, when you have a deck that really benefits from building up strength for multiple rounds, if you give your opponent the control, even if you force, if you get extra cards out of them, it may not be the most favorable thing, because the late game can still be very weak because of Ekimaras not achieving their full potential. As we're going to see Egels into Dorgaray spawning Ekimara, consuming one of the X, but running with a very nice tempo swing that also builds up that carryover even further.
I think when you're in a position like Coleman where you're tempted, you have a favorable passing position, you're up on card, you're up on points, but like you said, Unseen Elder is a deck that generally doesn't want to pass unless it absolutely has to, and in this situation, doesn't have to. Going even cards here is fine. He's going to go opt and just get a huge play here, grabbing Gels grabbing Dorgaray into the Ekimara, getting that extra value from the egg and developing more carryover. It's not a bad play when you're faced with that decision over just giving up the round because you think that extra card is going to help you win. The carryover is just as likely to help you win.
Tailbot forced to go for the Emir into the Medic here, just for the pure sake of tempo, as he's going to try to get a nice chain to be able to damage that Ekimara and set up the muzzle, as I mentioned prior. And there is the second Enforcer. Not like he needed it after that double chain, but he's going to hit that twice and then hit something else. Yep, denying the egg and setting up the muzzle in the process. He may opt to... did he sequence that properly? Did he sequence that? Because if he... No, he didn't. No.
What happened there? Did he eliminate a spy and prevent a ping in that situation? I mean, he was running out of time in that situation. That could have been close. He wanted to pick up the Vic of Aura Medics.
No. The problem is he didn't hit the Emissary. He needed to hit the Emissary. He kind of roped there. So now his Vic of Aura Medics are kind of dead unless he plays the Nausicaa Brigade. I mean, he does have a solution to this problem, right? But that definitely slows his game down a little bit, even though he has managed to get ahead with this play. And Coleman is fully aware of what he's trying to do. Like the fact that he hit that Ekimara twice, telegraphed much.
That's going to be the muzzles for sure.
Yep.
That's going to be a muzzle for sure, and it's a pretty strong play. Even if Coleman makes a very high-value play here, the Toad Prince into Manticore, 18 points, going to opt to go for the Frightener instead.
This is super interesting because he's threatening Tailbot with the -2, but also is only 15 points behind, which may seem like it's a lot, but he can definitely catch up with the Toad Prince Manticore combo, which he has in hand. So we're going to see a very nice Rainfarm into Cantorella to say no to that, and he picks up a very, very important card for this particular scenario, and now he can actually bop the Emissary and do the chain potentially.
Now, having Peter is fantastic for denying Nekkers. However, Emir being spent now, no K here in the deck, so there's only one shot for Peter, which is usually good enough, especially if there's no other way of sourcing it. Being able to take that Ekimara now, being able to do the counter spy here with Cantorella versus Frightener, so he doesn't have to go down 2 cards. Coleman would have definitely taken that pass. Now this makes it a little bit difficult. Tailbot's still ahead, and Coleman looking to make the next play here. The best, one of the biggest plays right here would be Toad Prince into the Manticore, 18-point silver, cycle a card. He has got a pretty fair deficit at this point because that, Rainfarm into Cantorella is like it's barely points, and it helps regulate the situation here. He's going to go for the pass here. Tailbot's going to take the round.
Now, let's talk a little bit about that pass. That pass is actually excellent because he's gotten Cantorella out of him. He was forced to play Cantorella to avoid the -2, but at this point, the only way Tailbot gets the extra card out of Coleman is by generating some massive... Well, first of all, he needs to just play into this round and try to get such a gap on him that he forces the extra card, right? But it's even more difficult when Coleman has a head start of 6 strength points.
Tailbot making the decision here in the driver's seat, did win the first round here. Game 4 of the semifinals of Gwent Challenger 2.
Hovering over the graveyard right there. Really
What's the
debating.
play, do you think, Miguel?
It's tough to say because that Ekimara really makes it difficult. You need
My prescription,
your spy
a bit
engine
of
to make,
bloodletting.
get some magic going on.
Please
Here,
wait,
you
Your
need to,
Excellency.
really
Falling
start
behind.
generating some huge
Discipline.
plays. You are in the
That is what
driver's
you
seat,
fought
so
back.
you decide when this round ends. And I think you just have to bleed him. You have to push. You still have muzzle. You still have the ability to damage units and steal them with muzzle, because he's in control. Like, the difference between this and the first round is that Coleman could pass whenever he wants. Here, Coleman cannot do that unless he wants to get 2-0'd, right? So Tailbot can more easily set up the muzzle steal onto one of the Ekimaras, but he needs one of the enforcers to do so.
Use a really key term here. You're talking about bleeding your opponent out of resources. So even though Tailbot is committing some of his better long round resources in Emperor Brigade, perhaps the enforcers, which is likely to come down here. I mean, he does have, he does have the Nausicaa Brigade, so he can make use out of the Infiltrator, but the long round favors the Enforcer. So if he's playing the Enforcer, he's telling Coleman, I'm here to commit to this round, and I'm going to bleed you out of resources. You have a better idea of what your round 3 looks like. You just get the cards out of the hand. It's inconsequential here for Tailbot because he is in the driver's seat. He doesn't have to win this round, and he is holding Peter Sargwenlev, which will deny the Necker as soon as it makes an appearance. Any carryover is good to stop here, but the Necker is very key here. Peter could actually make or break this matchup.
I love him attacking the eggs. That takes away power. It may seem like he missed out on damage there, but he's actually stealing away 4 strength from the Ekimara. So that is definitely a big play for him to make, as this Enforcer is the key. It needs to stick around, and it needs to be able to ping at the Ekimara so they can steal it with muzzle, as he also has the likes of the Nausicaa Brigade sitting in his hand right there. But it seems like he's going to go for Renew into Gales into Kayran. Yep, and he's going to deny that, and that's going to be a huge swing in his favor as well. And that's also going to ease up the field for the Ekimaras. Excellent. Preserving the Kayran for later down the line. Even though he didn't draw it, I'm pretty sure he would have preserved it precisely for this scenario. He knows what Tailbot can do with his deck, and he's completely saying no to that game.
I love that play a lot. I mean, there is an opportunity for Renew to be a Woodland Spirit later on, and if this is going to be a round 1, it would have made Tailbot have a little bit harder time getting a lead. But why do you do that when you actually get far more value out of stopping the Enforcer? Like we said before, Kayran's best target in this game is an Enforcer. Perhaps it could when he suits support, but in this situation, definitely an Enforcer. Tailbot's had enough. He's like, okay, we're going to go into a longer round here, a longer round 3. He's going to be down a card here. Coleman's going to be ahead. Tailbot is in a tough spot here. He isn't going to be able to act last at this point. All the spies have been played.
Well, I'm not sure if he's exactly in such a tough spot, but he may be down 1 card. But look at Coleman's hand. He has double Ekimara, Lesser Guardian. He has a lot of, excuse my language, crap sitting right there. And that Necker, I'm not sure if that's what he wanted to see, because you want to consume those Neckers with the Ekimara to get that value, but now he can't even do that. Like, yes, he has the extra card. Yes, he has the Toad Prince into Manticore combo, but Peter just laughs at that too. So even though Tailbot is down 1 card, his hand seems way more powerful. It depends on how many bronzes he has left available to him to be able to, abuse those Vic of Aromatics. But this got very interesting because Peter, Vilgefortz, Vilgefortz could also be used offensively if it came down to that as well, as it will probably draw something like a Lesser Guardian. And Joaquin also represents a huge swing, so this is very fascinating here. As we see the Ghoul being picked up, that is huge though, because that not only... Oh man, now you can consume that. Oh.
Yeah, I mean, definitely don't want to discount Coleman's hand here. Having Toad Prince into Manticore being the 18-point play, putting the 13-strength Manticore into the graveyard for Monster's Nest to be a 20-point play, but that Ghoul draw means that Monster's Nest can be used a little bit more flexibly, as the Ghoul will be able to hit that Manticore by itself. So there's actually a ton of power in Coleman's hand right now, even though he did draw that second Necker, which reduces some of the cycling opportunities for strength. It's probably going to be okay in this situation. Peter will have lots of targets to pick from between the Giant Toad or one of the Neckers. The Necker is probably going to be looking like a good target, but that extra Necker in hand actually could be something that Coleman uses here to take this round.
Well, I don't know if Nekker is the best target. Well, obviously, Tailbot doesn't know his hand. It doesn't know the fact that he has both of them in his hand, right?
Well, that's a big thing.
But Peter onto that, Peter onto the Toad Prince right there is already representing a 21-point swing for him. The thing is, if Coleman were to designate his Monster's Nest onto the Manticore, that would be an even better target. But it's most likely going to be the Ghoul, and the Ghoul will end up being 17 points. So I think Toad Prince may be the target to go for with Peter right here. We've yet
He's going to go
Mano,
play
right?
the weather. Look at this. Rain in a Gwent tournament. I haven't known the last time I saw Torrential Rain drop onto a row in a tournament of this level here, but this is going to be a fairly long round here, and you know, Tailbot isn't necessarily going to give Bay a better value play. So now this actually hinders what can be done on the melee row. On top of this, with Peter is locked to the melee row, so there is that as well.
Yeah, this is very interesting. It's a very interesting round because those two Ekimaras are looking so weak. But then again, Ghoul and Monster's Nest represent a lot of value, and he does have one card over Tailbot, and he does have a current 15-point lead, and Rain ticking down every turn. But it seems we're going to see Joaquin as of now. Let's see what he pulls with Joaquin. As I'm pretty sure he has not played Menno, correct? Unless I'm mistaken. Yeah, he hasn't played Menno, so he's going to pull the Infiltrator, and that gives him a ridiculous... And if he's able to thin properly, which he will with the Vilgefortz onto the Emissary, he will pull Menno with Vilgefortz for a monster swing. I think Tailbot can do this.
Man, this is a battle of the
Tailbot
Titans.
can do this. He can do this. Oh, man.
This is a battle of the Titans right now. There's so much strength in both players' hands right now, but that is such a good point. Menno is almost guaranteed, if not absolutely guaranteed, from Vilgefortz. That's going to be, I mean, what is that? 8 strength, 16 strength, killing an 18-point target is pretty damn good, I would say. Now Peter doesn't have to worry about the Toad. He can just go on to the next best thing, which is likely going to be one of the...
That's why he set up the Rain, by the way. Sorry for interrupting. That's why he, like... Very nice sequencing for Coleman. Sorry, continue.
No, that is it. I mean, now the Rain's going to get full value, 2 points a turn at this point. You know, Peter being real-locked was one thing, of course, but that Drowner out of the Monster Nest. But, you know, he earned that flexibility by drawing the Ghoul.
Oh, man. We're going to see if Coleman mistakes stars in a prawn.
Pot! Reflected in the night sky. I said it right, okay?
Stars in a prawn for the nice guy.
No.
I agree. Miguel, you're a poet, I think.
Oh, God damn it. All right, Wisconsin will get here. Nilfgaard getting him finally ahead, even though the Rain continues to tick. Like I said, this last combo with Vilgefortz is gonna be sick. Is gonna be so sick. And he also has Peter on top of that to target something else. He has so much power in his hand right now, and those two Ekimaras are just, like, combined, they represent, well, not entirely 6. They actually represent 8 points each one of them, because they do buff the Nekkers after consuming something. But he has to be careful with what he consumes, because you can also, oh man, this is just gonna, he has like an excellent Peter target and an excellent Menno target like that. Oh, that is so powerful. How can Coleman overcome that? This is incredible. One card down, but the power of the Empire will be victorious.
All right, well, let's just let it go here. And I think this might be a little early. But
I'm getting a little bit excited, but we have to see. That is the last Infiltrator right there, and the last card in this deck is Menno. Menno Koihorn, in case anybody new is watching, Menno is an 8 strength gold that has the ability of damaging an opposing enemy unit by 4 points. But if it is a spy, because he really hates traitors, or no, he has his own friends. I don't know why he does that, but he kills spies because he doesn't like people working in secret. I don't know. Maybe he has some ethical issues. I don't know the reason behind that. But
I think he's just a stone cold gangster, Menno. Like, he's just one of the best cards that Nilfgaard has to operate with. Making the, you know, Infiltrator is just such a strong card at 9 points already, but actually giving you that opportunity to get a massive, almost limitless amount of value from Menno. In this situation, you're happy to take this. You're going to vaporize this Nekker. Now, if Coleman didn't have a Nekker already in his hand, this would have been a much more devastating. But even so, that last Ekimara is only going to represent 6 points plus the proc, of course, the consume proc on the Nekker. That Vilgefortz and that muzzle are looking, I mean, the muzzle is not going to be great, but
the problem is the muzzle. We find a good value with the muzzle because the thing is, if Coleman consumes one of the emissaries, it will be a mistake because he's already vulnerable to Menno, right? And if he can consume Abaya, he can consume the the Browner, but if he consumes one of the spies, the Ekimaru will be at 8 strength. It will be exactly set for that. I just can't see that happening. Coleman is not going to make that mistake. He consumes a Baya, making that Ekimaru 9 strength and also weakening the muzzle even more. Oh no. Oh.
Yeah, I mean, Coleman knows exactly what's in Tailbot's hand right now. Potentially Mano, potentially Muzzle, and potentially Villagefort, says he hasn't seen any of those cards, and he did study the deck list here. Here comes Mano, is going to grab an 18-point slaughterhouse.
Will be victorious. Look at this huge swing, 22 points ahead. He's got him.
I mean, it's huge, right?
He's got him.
But that's going to cycle with
He's
the
got him. I
Ekimaru,
told you that combo is just so ridiculous. He's got him. Oh wow! Even with the weak muzzle, Wait.
No, the Ekimaru's going to cycle this Necker, right? Is it over?
No. That's not the Oh, I forgot about the. Oh.
That's what I'm saying, my friend. Not over till it's over. Coleman able to pull it off here. Even with an Ekimaru that didn't get full value, that muzzle just wasn't enough.
I'm sorry.
Right
I thought he played that Necker earlier on. I kind of forgot about that. That was such a good game, though, so it's not over. He doesn't got him. Call him on his back. I was just super excited about that combo. I apologize so much. I just forgot about the Necker, honestly. I thought that was the last one.
Mogwai, you can be forgiven, my friend. That is just you having Nilfgaard vision, and we know that is one of your greatest assets. And, you know, the bright side here is that we're going to see one more shot here. Tailbot, for match point here, both players. And now we have our first 5th game in a best-of-5 series. We only saw a maximum of 3 1s already in the previous matchup on the bracket. You can see that. Now, it's really key now. Now, it's the semifinals. You get to see these best-of-5 series go the distance when players of this caliber are able to get there. So Nilfgaard at this point is now going to be taking on Coleman's final deck now, which is
King Bran. It's King
It
Bran.
is King Bran.
One of the things to point about that game, and the key thing was being able to play around that muzzle and making it only a 4-point play. It really came down to that. And also, despite the fact that he's not running Necker Warriors, because he preserves those Neckers for the very end, and having 2 Neckers in his hand actually enabled him to be at the advantage. And because that entire round, I had in my brain that he already played 1 Necker for some reason, I thought that was actually a bad thing, but hopefully you guys enjoyed the match regardless. That was so epic. Getting that sneaky win at the end with that consumption was so good. As we're in the last match here, we have the Nilfgaard Empire against the Skellige Archipelago. The winner of this match will advance to the semifinals. To the finals, and we'll face off the winner of Freddy Vapes and Life Coach. Here we go. Coleman with the lead. I like how Coleman opted to bring the Unseen Elder in the match where he was going to go second, and is going to resort to King Bran in the match when he goes first. He believes this deck is less vulnerable, basically, to that scenario, as Wolfsbane is really going to make up for the lack of tempo, and it's going to be very interesting to see how this pans out, because we see Emir does not have a way to actually deny Seris, as he's not running the likes of Ox. So this is a very, very intriguing matchup.
I was talking to Tailbot a little bit earlier before the match started here. Tailbot was very confident when it came to mirror matches. On paper, he felt that he had a fantastic ability to take games in the mirror, and I do believe that that is true, but this time in this best of 5, none of these games were actually mirrors. Unlike yesterday, we saw a lot of mirror matches, so a very varied matchup list in this situation, which actually makes for a great set so far. And this has been a fantastic set. Man, that that Menno from Villagefort was so strong.
So powerful.
But you know. The cycling ability of the Neckers there is one of the reasons why Unseen Elder is still a very, very strong pick. Even though we've seen sort of middling success from Unseen Elder over the last couple of tournaments, you know, sometimes you just need that perfect moment there where you can get that cycle, and just edges out Tailbot, who got through his entire deck very, very efficient. If Coleman is able to win this match and beat Emir 3 times in a row, that actually would put Emir at a negative win rate in this tournament, which is pretty wild, I think.
It's super wild. Now, something to point out about this matchup is that normally it is a rather advantageous matchup for Emir, but Coleman's brand list is very redefined. It's kind of like the updated version. I was mentioning earlier, it's very similar to Life Coach's variant, with a different Gorn lineup than what you're used to see, with Coral, Seris, and then Muzzle and Wolfsbane instead of the likes of Geralt Digny or Madman Lugos, which are very popular choices for this build, right? So he does have answers to Muzzle with his own Muzzle onto the Morkvarg, even though it's not currently in his hand. Wolfsbane, for the initial round 1 tempo, can really make up for the snowballing power of Spies. It can enable him to catch up and put him in a bad spot. And he does run Scorched. You're seeing it in his hand right there at the very end, the very far left. Scorch can be super powerful because it can capitalize on the Impera brigades and just deny them completely. And with
Please
the
wait your
Whale
excellency.
Harpooners, he can
I'm
actually work
falling
to line
behind.
up said Impera brigades for the Scorch. But at the same time, Tailbot knows that he's running it. The surprise factor is gone, so he's going to be try to positioning. He's going to try to position as best as he can to avoid that. So the rows in which he opts to, position his units has to be very meticulously selected.
I mean, there is an opportunity to stagger the Impera brigades with Nausicaa brigades, perhaps for the emissaries, but generally, though, yeah, the Scorch is pretty scary. You know, Joachim the Vet usually gives a really great Scorch target. The Emperor brigades are great Scorch targets as well, and the larger they are, the easier it will be for Koloman to simply just accept a pass and take it with Scorch, since he's always going to have a Scorch target, even though he is opting to apply the Fog on the Emperor brigade instead of letting it grow into his Scorch. So Koloman might have bigger plans for that Scorch. What do you think about Fog on that row on the Emperor brigade? It denies a bit of value.
It does. It's definitely an interesting play, as he does know that he's running Vanhamar, but I'm not sure. I'm honestly not sure why he opted to go for the Fog there. He's perhaps expecting a rather long round and he wants to build up that value, but he does have the potential to weather clear. But then again, he probably was expecting Tailbot to look to get the overdose value out of Vanhamar. So that Fog, well, I think what he may try to do here is make it so that unless he gets an emissary chain, that Impera brigade will never go above 6, so that it will get actually knocked out by the Wolfsbane. What's going to happen? Yep, because of that play. Wow, because he went for the muzzle right there, the Impera brigade got knocked out, and any sort of potential value that it gained. Oh man, that Fog timing was so good.
I mean, it completely destroys that. That extra little ping there for Grimace denies long-term value. I mean, it was already stopping a lot of value that Tailbot could have built. Tailbot applying muzzle on the on Morkvarg, making that artwork very, very honest looking, as that muzzle is depicting, a very Morkvarg-esque visage there being pulled onto the melee row by Tailbot, denying some more carryover value. This is always, in a lot of ways for Skellige, carryover is the name of the game. That denies a lot of procs on Ceres, is a fairly strong play as well. Wolfsbane does take the life of that Impera brigade, so Tailbot's going to have to see how he's going to be able to maybe establish an engine or a foothold on this round here as Koloman continues to push.
Gonna drop the Ekimara right there, gonna consume Coral, and gonna get a nice 11-point Ekimara right there with a 19-point lead over Tailbot. Tailbot has lost one of his spy engines, which is one of the weaknesses of Emir Spies, is the beginning of a round, right? They have a bit of a slow start. Once they get their engines going, they can be very difficult to overcome. But because of that initial play with the Fog denying that Impera brigade from continuing to grow, Tailbot is in a rather tough position, because his carryover does not defeat Koloman's as of right now, because Morkvarg will come back as 2 strength, and even though the main reason he muzzled right there is to deny the Ceres value, right? Which is definitely very impactful. But it's going to be interesting to see what play he opts to go with. We may actually...
It's a pretty big deficit in points here. I mean, he doesn't have the engine to compete. Yeah, he doesn't have the engine to really push. Even in 2 cards, it would be a little tough here. So I think the pass is totally fine here. Just going to take his card and go home. We're going to go into round 2. This is the final game of the set here. Tailbot looking to punch through with Nilfgaard. Normally a fine deck to take 3 stabs at a series with, but Koloman has been able to shut it down. In Koloman choosing to ban Unseen Elder, he knew he was going to have to beat Nilfgaard a number of times potentially, because Nilfgaard usually comes out in the situation of the blue coin in these tournaments. Of course, that is regulated, so you're going to have to face Nilfgaard probably twice.
Now, we can definitely expect Koloman to start pushing this round. Or we could also, the thing is, you don't want a long round against Spies because of how crazy their engines may get. You have Scorch, but how do you deal with the Enforcers efficiently, right? It's very dangerous to go into a very long round against Nilfgaard Spies with discard Bran, because the snowballing effect is just too powerful. He does have the carryover advantage over Tailbot, so he can opt to start pressuring him here and try to get that extra card out of him, so the card advantage is restored. As he's hovering over that Warmonger, probably going to set it down and discard a Clown Enclave Raider to proc Ceres 1.
till you call it off with it.
But instead, he's hovering over the Battle Maiden. As he seems like he's going to opt to resurrect it with, or is it potentially his restore target?
I mean, it's very similar to how Coleman played the first set with King Brand. So having the Battle Maiden on hand to source additional Warmongers, it's a little bit different in this matchup. He has 3 Harpooners in his hand as well as one of the Warmongers, so that 1 Battle Maiden is enough to get that thinning out. And he does have the Priestess of Frey. He doesn't have Restore.
It kind of sucks for Coleman, though, drawing that muzzle in round 2. He definitely would have liked to have it in round 1 to counter it, because now it's not worth to muzzle Morkvarg back after it, resurrected as 2, because it's very easy for Tailbot to just deny the resurrection altogether, just with the ping of 1 Impair Enforcer. So that muzzle is definitely going to be able to aim. He's going to be looking to aim for something else.
Probably one of the Enforcers.
Yeah, the key of this match is when is Coleman trying to utilize his Scorch? Like, is he aiming for a Scorch in round 3 to combat Joaquin? Or is he aiming to utilize it in this round to get a nice swing in his favor?
The Mother Goddess, she giveth and taketh away.
Build, as we're going to see a res onto the Battle Maiden to get another Warmonger out of the deck, and also proc Seris. Not once, but twice.
Such a huge play here. If Seris were to, I mean, the Warmonger can get Seris out because Warmonger is going to discard that last Raider. So, or is it the last Raider or is it the second? It would be the second Raider in this situation. So that would be a pretty huge swing. Coleman may be in a great position to pass after that play.
Which is why we have to see Emir out of here. We have to see Emir into Kalak to start generating some value. Emir, the standard Emir into Kalak play really makes up for the slow start that Morkvarg Spies has, as he does get the chain. And he's probably going to be looking for that Enforcer. There it is. There it is.
Now that Enforcer can be muzzled. Sorry. It can be muzzled. I'm not quite sure. I mean, Coleman being able to... what would you do in this situation, Miguel? Would you think about muzzling that Enforcer just to make this round a little bit more favorable? Or being in the driver's seat of the round here, would you just opt to go for like the highest tempo play you can to try to find that favorable pass?
I think muzzle into Enforcer is definitely justified. Also, this is a good opportunity for Coleman to pass as well, because he does get the extra card out of him, and he does have last save with Scorch. So those are the 2 options Coleman is thinking about here. He's thinking about either passing or continue to pressure with the muzzle onto the Enforcer to deny future value, and he is going to go for that. Going to go for the muzzle onto the Enforcer, going to give him a nice and 12-point swing, but that's actually going to be a lot more points later. Well, actually a 10-point swing, because it does convert the unit into a spy, and thus it does buff the Imperial Brigade. So Tailbot does have a chance to catch up here. The thing is that he is losing his engine components, right? But he does have a whole lot of emissary potential available to him still.
Now, I mean, the other consideration here for Coleman is, does he want to actually proc Seris this round, or does he want it in round 3?
I cast myself upon thy mercy.
Because he only has Sigurd Rifa left for Resurrection, and while the Resurrection on a Warmonger is 2 ticks of Seris' counter, without a Freya or something like that that can assist in that, Morkvarg isn't going to be coming back. Olgierd is not in Coleman's deck, so it's a little bit tougher for Seris to get sourced outside of getting her later.
We're going to see him drop the Imperial Brigade here. I think that's Scorch.
Yeah, there's the staggering.
Yeah, like, here's the thing. He's vulnerable to Wool Harpooner into Scorch now, because he can Wool Harpooner into one of the rows, either the melee or the ranged. And he can line up the 2 Imperial Brigades because of that. He can target the 14 Strength Brigade, and because he moves it to the melee or the ranged row, it will deal 2 damage to it because there's already 1 unit there. Yeah, and thus, it will put them both at 12, and that would lead to a massive point swing that could enable Coleman to get a very big upper hand. But he's going to drop Sigurd Rifa.
He's going for the Seris, yeah.
Is he going for the 2-0?
Well, you know what? With the Scorch target that big, and that can be a later play too, because there isn't a way to unstagger that. There's no buff potential here.
I'm very shocked to see Sigurd Rifa.
The Goddess protect you from all evil!
Gods, not a moment's pace.
Oh, instead he's going for the far.
Oh, that's fine too, right? Gonna preserve. The Harpooners for later on.
Ooh, how can Tailbot combat this?
He's going to have to go down. He is up 2 cards right now, and he is going to still be behind here. He's going to lose a huge amount of points.
The only answer is Rainfart into Joaquin, right? Like, the only answer is to pull Rainfart into Joaquin. and pull something that's going to be bigger than Brigade, so that takes the hit with Scorch.
Yeah, but the Harpooner can probably level that. Because the Harpooner would pull it into the Siege Bro, which that'll be 4 damage at the very least, and then the Fog would tick on it, so 6 damage on whatever Joaquin pulls. If Joaquin pulls an Infiltrator, it only slows down the ultimate Scorch that will happen.
Oh, this is tight. This is excellent gameplay by Coleman here. Go ahead and see the Rainfart go down into Joaquin. He has to do this. He has no other choice. And Peter, oh man, if he pulls Peter to the Will Harpooner would just deny this.
Making Seres a little bit worse if she were to come back later. Not really sure if she even is going to come back.
This is rough. This is rough. Coleman is going to have the Scorch of a lifetime, and it's going to be incredibly tough for Tailbot to come back from this. Like, losing your 2 brigades, that is your main source of power here.
Now, if he does Harpoon Peter into the Siege Road, does that mean the Fog will actually tick on one of the brigades?
Oh yeah, it does. But then the next turn it will pick on the other one, basically.
Yeah.
He just has to wait an extra turn.
It's just patience, right?
It's just
Coleman is just exercising his patience here.
Yeah.
It's going to be a great Scorch.
Unless he Van Hemars now.
Yeah, that would be it. That would
Unless
be
he
the
Van
denial.
Hemars now. If he Van Hemars now, he's going to have to use a War Harpooner to bring one of the Imperial Brigades to the... Oh, but the problem is he can still pressure with the... But yeah, he has to Van Hemar now.
He's got,
this is
still
so
has
intense.
options, right?
Tailbot trying really hard to not let the Scorch happen. He knows he's trying to set it up.
What you've got.
Yep, he has to go for the clear skies here.
Coleman just has the answer already, though. Man, oh man.
Will Harpooner are going to bring one of the brigades to the either melee or range row, and it's going to deal 2 damage to that brigade, and it's going to be the same problem all over again. Oh, man. Yep, that's exactly what's going to happen here.
This could be, I mean, if it's not a 2-0 situation, it's going to pressure Tailbot into playing everything.
Wow. That Scorch, I'm telling you, that Scorch. Normally this is a good matchup for Nilfgaard Spies, but that Scorch changes everything. They're back. Oh, they're back at 12. Oh, man. What can he do now? What can he do?
I mean, Vicovaro Medic at this point is just going to be servicing the deck really to get it a little bit thinner.
Can he resurrect anything that could potentially, no.
It's not just us that are searching for options now. Tailbot as well, just trying to think of any way he can stop this. And if he can't stop it, Coleman can be patient. I mean, that Scorch can be the last play here.
Oh, he's going to go for the Enforcer, but no, he can't stop this.
This ain't Galaga. You can't ping your own unit, unfortunately.
28-point Scorch incoming. This could be a 2-0. Are you kidding me? Okay. Yeah, he can't stop this. Like, I'm thinking about options, but it's just like, can he recuperate from this hit?
This whole matchup, guys, we've been talking about maximizing value. Coleman has potential to maximize Scorch too. The likes that we don't always get to see, not even on the ladder. It's perfect, especially, great players play around cards like Scorch.
And also, the placement of that Imperial Enforcer was actually incorrect, leaving it vulnerable to that third Will Harpooner right there, and getting completely wiped out because there were 5 units in Siege Row. This is looking really bad for Tailbot. His entire engine is being denied.
All the parts being dismantled here, and then the biggest part of it looking to be just a big red target over it. 28 points at least.
Oh, I don't think he has any way to do this. I don't think he has any way to stop this.
And he's forced to continue playing Coleman in the driver's seat here, and he's happy to be there because he has answers.
Oh! The Battle Maiden! No, but he's already played all of his brigades, right? If he had one more brigade left, he could have played the Battle Maiden there.
Yeah, if there's no target for the Battle Maiden to pull, she won't ping, even though it is a soldier. It is a soldier, yeah?
Yeah, it is a soldier.
Yeah.
Oh, that would have been his one shot.
No, good eye on that one. But yeah, without the target, there is no ping. That would have been actually amazing. Unfortunately, Tailbot does not have that tool at his disposal. The Scorch is getting better and better. It's gonna burn.
Oh, the Empire. The Empire. No.
Oh, it hurts over here. It hurts to watch.
36-point Scorch. The engine has been denied. Tailbot is in massive trouble. He is 32 points behind.
Let's get past him, Miguel. At this point, you feel like Coleman should just push, just play that, play the Warmonger at this point? I guess it matters.
First of all, we need one hell of a Vilgefortz here. Nobody's one need of a Vilgefortz.
Oh, another Menno!
Into Menno!
The Empire.
It's not the greatest Menno, but
that's actually a very solid swing. He's still in this. That Vilgefortz into Menno is actually really good. That's really good.
That was the best possible outcome, wasn't it?
Are you kidding me? That was insane. Wait, but after this, what does he have? Like, oh my God, this is too much.
I mean, Coleman does have. There is one more Raider, I believe, left in the deck for that Warmonger, so that's a 12-point play.
Well, it'll be 13 in round 3, but it is 12 here. But the Nausicaa Brigade onto Joachim will provide him with a, I believe we're talking about a 14-point swing, which is enough for him to catch up here.
He's going for the pressure play.
He's going for the 2-0.
That's boring. Just
going for the 2-0. Will Tailbot be able to overcome this? He is 23 points behind.
It's going to be a top deck, if anything. Tailbot just taking a look at his opponent's graveyard. What can I get from the Vico Varomedic to make things better? If the Ekimar is enough, that at least applies a carryover to him, but it is
Ekimar's not enough.
Isn't that the best target, though? All Whale Harpooners are on the board right now, not available. All the Warmongers are on the board right now, not available. These are all fine cards to bring up from Vico Varomedic. You know, if you want to get at least decent value. Tailbot. What's going to happen here? I mean, he's probably just going to take a look at what the best option is here. He has a decent option for the Nausicaa Brigade, gets to chop down Joachim.
Tailbot is only running 2 infiltrators. Has he played both? Because if he were, no, there's no better target, right? There's no better target than that Joachim anyways.
A highly curious case.
So intense.
The Battle Maiden doesn't have a target.
Oh, he just can't do it.
He's running out of time.
No, this will tie.
It will tie.
I think it will, unless I'm doing my math wrong. No, is it 16 or 14 points? So if he hits that, 9, yeah, it will tie. It will tie.
Take us home,
It will tie. Oh my God! Coleman takes it. The 2-0 or 2-1 technically. Coleman with the win, advancing to the finals. What a match to end it off.
In a tie situation, the round 1 winner will take the game there. What an intense series. It came down to the last decision. That Forge was absolutely massive, easily a turning point here. Tailbot is eliminated. Coleman is going to go out to the finals. We're going to find out who he's going to be playing in a second here as the players are going to move in here for a handshake, a little GGWP.
Are you kidding me?